Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be discussing all the fun stuff that happened and took place between the US versus England in a friendly match at Wembley. Here at She Scores Bangers. So before we dive into the game and everything that happened, I think it's quite important to recognize the stuff that did come out earlier this week and all the unfortunate sexual allegations and absolute terrible misconduct behavior that was revealed by a Yates investigation in the NWSL. It was another sad reminder that women's sports still has a component of abusive power. It's still not a place where people and players and professionals still feel safe and heard, and player rights are not there. The basic rights of players is not set. It's important to recognize that some of these players on the pitch, even off the pitch, the fans, everybody that was involved in this probably had a very, very hard week. It takes a lot of resilience and crowd to do what these ladies did on the pitch today, and so I think that must be applauded regardless of what the result was. Now, the 76,891 fans that showed up and filled up Wembley was the biggest friendlies crowd for a US national team's friendly game. On top of that, the 90,000 tickets, which is the entirety of the stadium, was sold out in 15 minutes after going live, which is absolutely crazy, also making it the fastest sellout for a women's football match. Now, if you don't know already, the Lionesses beat USA 2-1 with Lauren Hemp opening the scoring, Sophia Smith equalizing, but a Georgia Stanway converting from the penalty spot secured the deal for the English. This means that they are still undefeated under Serena Wiegman. It is a 23-game streak, which is absolutely mind-boggling considering she's been in this role for less than a year. We're actually creeping up to a year now, but so far, 23 games, unbeaten, less than a year. It's absolutely, I honestly, truly don't think we're ever going to see something like this in history ever. It is just wild. So let's break down England a little bit here first, and then we're going to move on to the US, which there's a lot to talk about in that area. Earlier this week, we had news of Leah Williamson, Russo, and Parker withdrawing from camp after all of them picking up a knock. As a replacement, it was Lotte Wubben-Moy and Nikita Paris being called up. No word for Beth England, which is a little interesting. Now for the starting 11, it was Greenwood to replace Williamson and Rachel Daly obviously still being in left back despite banging in goals left and right. Stanway and Walsh were the pivots, Mead, Kirby, and Chloe in front of her, and as the number 9 was Lauren Hemp. I thought this was very interesting. When I saw the starting lineup, I was like, are we sure it is Lauren Hemp up in the 9 position, or is it Mead? Mead sometimes typically does play in that number 9 role with Arsenal, but I was very intrigued to see how it worked out, and I think it worked out pretty well. I think Lauren Hemp, she possesses a lot of speed, a lot of pace, obviously, and that does her magic on the wing, and it was going to be really interesting to see how she utilizes that skill in a different way in that 9 role, and I think she did it beautifully. I think the way she moves, the way she positions herself, because she's so fast, it makes the job of defenders and whoever's marking her have a 10 times harder of a day. She was opening a lot of pockets for herself, for Chloe, for Mead, for Kirby. It was really good to see her. I don't think she's going to be playing in that role 9 position at all, but it was a good showing, and I think it's kind of nice for a forward player to have a bit of versatility, especially on top. You know, I didn't hate seeing Lauren Hemp in the 9 position, but it was a perfect plate for Rachel Daly. But, you know, I guess Serena Wiegman just loves her consistency. Rachel Daly has done well in that left back position, and so why take her out? But, you know, it's certainly an interesting choice that she does make every time there's a starting 11. Chloe Kelly had a really good game. She came pretty close to finishing a few shots, just didn't have that kind of clinical aspect to it. Beth Mead was just, again, Beth Mead, despite not getting on the scoring sheet, she actually did get the assist, but again, pressing, dropping, being all over the place, being involved in every kind of build-up, attack, just pure Beth Mead, really. Kirby in the middle, again, still raises a lot of questions with how she fits with the Serena system, you could say. Sometimes she's in that 8 position, sometimes she's in that 10 position. I remember even before the Euros kicked off, there was a few times she was kind of playing far in the wing, which is literally exactly where Kirby does not play. And there were certainly shades of that, of Kirby trying to find her place, her feet, her kind of role in that midfield. For the backline, Lucy Bronze did pretty well with handling and marking Rapinoe. I don't think she had a lot of issues on that side. With that being said, it was clear that they wanted to build from the back, and I think when Williamson is not present, that showed to be a real problem. Williamson obviously is very calm on the ball. She passes pretty well with both feet. She knows how to position herself and distribute the line with her as well. I think that's quite underappreciated quality of hers. She's obviously a leader, so she is able to communicate pretty well, but she distributes herself and that defense line nicely for whenever they do want to build from the back. That showed to be a real issue with both Greenwood and Millie Bright. Maybe the communication was just not quite there, but there was moments of panic. There was moments of where the US saw that as an opportunity, where they were pressing. They came pretty close to kind of take that ball away, and really the goal that they scored, Sophia Smith, was from applying pressure on Stanway and the defense from the keeper in England trying to build from the back. So obviously that was an error. I probably would have kind of ditched that idea of building from the back because Williamson was not there. Something to definitely work on for England. It could have been just missing Williamson, and that was hard to work around and adapt in such a short amount of time. It's clear that they have mastered the core principles of football. The passing accuracy, insane. The physicality, exactly where it needs to be. The pressing work, really, really well nailed. Ball control, I mean, when you watch that midfield, it's a masterclass in there. And so Serena has really drilled in confidence and made sure they know the proper fundamentals of football. And it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. Just make sure you're mastering the fundamentals and you're going to be playing like England does, because it's just a joy to watch. Now for the United States, there was a little bit of drama, but let's start with the fun, good news here, though. Crystal Dunn was able to come on after giving pregnancy only 104 days ago. I think that's absolutely wild and such an admirable thing. Major props to her on that. Obviously, she did return to the Portland Thorns a few weeks ago, but to make it back on the national team at Wembley, I think that's a huge deal. Another huge deal with Alyssa Thompson, only 17 years old, also making her debut on that big stage. What a night to make your debut on, honestly. So the United States is coming off a set of friendly wins against Nigeria, as well as winning the CONCACAF after beating Canada 1-0 in the final. Now that does sound like a lot of positive stuff, and it is. It's what you'd want to expect from the reigning World Cup champions, but they're in a bit of a transitional period, not just with players, but for me it seems, and I really want to hear your opinion on this, for me it seems Vlatko is still kind of trying to put his blueprint on the team. It looks like him and the players still haven't figured out the blueprint of how the team should play. The US themselves had also a ton of crucial players that are missing. Mallory Pugh had to withdraw mid-camp. Alex Morgan, Macario Davidson, Lynn Williams. It's a really long list, but I think the player that they really are missing and have been missing is the Tower of Power, Sam Ewis. I want her back in that midfield so bad. So let's talk about the midfield. I was able to watch them quite closely during the CONCACAF. Obviously, I'm Canadian, so I knew they were definitely going to be matched with us in the final. But anyway, and though they did win the CONCACAF quite smoothly, the only really challenge that they had was against Canada. There was a lot of flaws that were exposed. So let's start off with Vlatko really rates Horan to the point where he is willing to play an injured one-legged Horan over any healthy player, any healthy, versatile, dynamite, good midfielder. He wants to play Horan regardless of what the situation is. In the nicest way possible, it's simply not working. I don't know how many more showings he needs to have. I don't know how many more poor midfield showings he needs to see to realize that the midfield that he's putting together, the starting 11 that he's been consistently putting together, Horan in there, the way he structures it is not working. It's simply too poor. Now don't get me wrong, I rate Horan quite highly, and I think she's a very, very good midfielder, very good player. I watch her games quite frequently with Lyon. She's understandably also a consistent starter for them. But the system that Vlatko puts her in simply shows every single weakness of hers. When she's playing, it's almost like she does not have a role. She's playing in the midfield, but she's not playing with the midfield, and that was, again, a consistent issue that we saw throughout the CONCACAF. It was her, Sullivan, and Rodman in the midfield, and a lot of the time she was kind of slotting into that sixth position, but she was not supported. And when you don't really have a supported six, you don't really have an 8 playing, and then the number 10 is also lacking to connect with their midfielders, and so there's an issue of creativity, and the whole midfield is then silent. And if Vlatko is so just dead set he wants to play Horan, I'm kind of open to the idea of having a double pivot and putting Horan in there. I don't know if that would be the most efficient kind of double pivot. Put her in there either with Coffey or Sullivan, or even I think Sullivan and Coffey together as a double pivot would also be a really good combo. with a different set of players that he has, I think a 4-2-3-1 would probably optimize a lot of that potential. And then ahead of them, the three players, you have a lot of options, and then up it could be Sophie Smith. So you have options to play that 4-2-3-1 and have a double pivot, because the way it looks like he wants to play would suit a double pivot. And if he really wants to play Haran, throw her in there, but throw some support with her so that the players in front of them can connect with somebody. They can produce creativity. It's not they're just standing there not knowing what to do. Hell, even I think in a few years, Girma, who by the way had an incredible game, I think at 22 to look as rock solid as she's been looking, the future is very bright for that back line with Girma. In a few years, if she's developed nicely, she can even take on that 6 role. She almost gives me shades of Williamson, where she is a player that can play in that 6 position and in the back because of how good they are pushing forward and moving the ball forward. And so, implement that system now. In a few years, you're going to have talent and other players that are going to be able to take on that role. And so I'm glad stuff like this is being exposed, because it means that I hope it's clear enough for him to see that the midfield needs some sorting out. Understandably, there are some very key players missing, but this is not to say that he does not have enough talent to put a good midfield together. Another good showing, Sophie Smith and Rodman. Very, very good game from both of them today. I'm a huge Rodman fan, if you can already tell. And every time when I was watching the CONCACAF and the starting 11 would come out and Rodman was in there, and in fact she would barely get any minutes, which in my head was the perfect tournament for a player like her to get as many minutes as she can. It was good to see her get those minutes and do very well in them. She even actually scored a goal, which was ruled offside. From a lot of the angles that I saw, the replays, it didn't look offside to me. I think she actually got a touch before the initial long ball was ruled offside. Regardless, even if she got a touch or if she didn't get a touch, it didn't look offside either way. But hey, refereeing has been an issue, and that is definitely a topic for another video, because it is quite a big topic. But it's certainly really positive, really good to see that talent have a good showing against some, top-notch opposition. I kind of would want to see if Vlatko have a bit of a meeting with Laura Harvey to discuss how to better utilize Lavelle and Rapinoe. Rapinoe looked a little bit sluggish and slow, which is not a shocker or anything, but Laura Harvey is able to work with her so well that you look at Rapinoe sometimes during those season games and she looks like she's about 30. She does not look her age, or she does not look as slow as maybe she does with the national team. Another Rain player, Cook, did not have a very good game. I think it was just a bad day in the office for her. Cook was not cooking, but Girma was cooking beside her, so, at least one of the center backs was having a good game this time. At the end of the day, I think both teams have a lot of questions imposed in them, a lot of lessons to learn from, specifically the US. England obviously saw that they can be exposed quite significantly when they are building from the back, and the US saw that midfield needs somewhat of a rebuild. So quick closing remarks. A big apologies for no videos last weekend or midweek. I was busy being battered and smacked by midterms at school. My professors decided to put 4 evaluations and 3 midterms, and I was just drowning in school content. Another big announcement, which I'm very, very excited for you guys to see. Next week, Saturday, October 15th, I'm going to be dropping a very fun video that we have been working on for the past month. I'm so excited for you to watch it. It is something that I've been dying to talk about and discuss and share and raise awareness about. And so October 15th, Saturday, make sure you have your notifications and eyes on the channel. With that being said, I want to hear your thoughts on this very entertaining, fun, friendly game that we were able to watch. And as always, make sure you subscribe to us here on YouTube and follow us on Twitter to stay updated and to continue enjoying the beautiful game. I will see you later. October 15th, Saturday. Don't forget it, please. It's gonna be so good. So good. So good. So good.